Pranam and Namaskar to all the Swamis and Matajis, and Namaskar to all brothers and sisters here. You are reminded that my predecessor was addressing the elephant in the room, and it is really, because the monks and the nuns mostly, they have the background of Sri Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, Holy Mother in their background, and therefore they all the time they're thinking of the Samanvaya. So Samanvaya is the point. But I will not go that way. I am here to talk about Dvaita. As you know, that these theistic philosophical schools on Veda there are 6 of them. Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Purva Mimamsa and Vedanta. And then the Vedanta, that also, we mostly talk about the 3 schools of Vedanta. Though it was mentioned just now that it is not just the 3, but these 3 are most prominent. And all the time we talk about them. And how we talk about them? With our background of, as I mentioned, we talk about them as if the Dvaita is the preliminary and the Vishishtadvaita is the next, and then comes Advaita. And you are merged in non-dual. But that did not happen. When these 3 acharyas came, it was Shankaracharya who was first among the 3, who came to establish the non-dual explanation of Prasthanatraya. After him came Ramanujacharya, and to establish the Vishishtadvaita way of explanation, commentary on the Prasthanatrayas. And then came Madhvacharya, the Dvaita teacher, explaining Prasthanatraya. So explaining, giving the commentary, that is explanation. It is not that simple that when you talk about Dvaita, what is Dvaita? Oh, the God and the soul, the devotee, it is the path of bhakti, they are eternally separate. It is not that simple. You have to go deep into the Dvaita philosophy and you will find that there is a whole lot of explanation, which most of us who are taught and live our life following the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, we really neither care nor go in that deep into that theory. That what is the... As I mentioned, this Prasthanatraya explaining the 3 most important shastras of Vedic literature, the principal Upanishads, then Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutras. Now they have to be properly explained. The commentators, the great teachers that we mentioned about, they will properly explain them. That is the commentary. Everything in detail, maintaining the ekvakyata. That means it has to be one principle, one message, one explanation all along, without deviating from one to another. It can't be so easy to say some things, now devotion, now saying everything eventually, etc. It is not eventually. You have to be principled and strictly follow the system, and then you explain. We don't have that kind of a time to thoroughly explain all sorts of any philosophy here, of course. But when we talk about the Dvaita philosophy, then the Dvaita philosophy Of course, all the philosophies that have been already mentioned, it is about finding the nature of the reality. What is real? It is so easy and simple to talk about the God is real, all pervading pure consciousness called Brahman, or it is without any name and form, because that is how we are trained. For decades and decades we are being told and we are being taught and we are studying and we are trying to understand that concept. Therefore we are talking like that. But when we come to this kind of philosophical schools, like Dvaita philosophy, Visishtadvaita philosophy, Advaita philosophy, and as I mentioned, Dvaita philosophy is the newest of all these three major philosophical schools. Then it is about trying to find out the reality, what is real. There are three things which are very clearly visible and perceivable. Or we can think of it. Like we may not perceive God or pure consciousness or anything right now, but still it is possible to think about it. And then there is a God, and there is the individual soul, and there is the material universe is there, the world outside us. So these three things are there, and is it real? What is real and what is not? Because when you go into non-dual Advaita all the time, we eventually merge everything into one and then that also disappears, etc. This is not that all the philosophers, they have spoken about it. In Dvaita philosophy, there is eternal division, Dvaita. And this division is not that simple, that individual soul and the Supreme Soul, that division. There is the division, eternal division between the three. The God who is Vishnu. Here in Madhvacharya's philosophy, that is Supreme God is Vishnu, who is also worshipped as Krishna. And the individual soul, and the matter, the material universe. These are three. But there is Panchabheda, the five differences or five separate nets. They are eternally different in Dvaita Vedanta. God is different from individual soul. God is different from matter. Matter is different from individual soul. Each individual soul is different from other individual souls, and every particle of matter is different from every particle of matter. So these are five Vedas, and these are very important things, Pancha-Vedas. It is not that they will so easily and simply they will accept that eventually everything becomes one. That is not what they will accept. And here is a different concept of the ultimate goal of our life or spiritual practice. Because when we talk about any kind of any school of Vedanta, there are two parts of it. One is about the philosophical explanation, and another part is about trying to follow that philosophical explanation so that we could realize the goal of our life. What is the goal of our life? It is the liberation. It is liberation. And what is liberation? Again, the same problem. In this house, everybody else will say, oh, liberation means your individual soul will merge into the all-pervading pure consciousness or Brahman, or that is the liberation. That is not liberation. in Dvaita philosophy. By the way, I am also a follower of Sri Ramakrishna. But I am talking here for Dvaita philosophy and trying to talk about that. So in Dvaita philosophy, the liberation is to attain the supreme state of dasoham. That is the practice. That is the spiritual practice. Dasoham. To be eternal dasa, or remain eternally the servant of the Lord, my Lord Vishnu. I want to be eternally his servant. That's it. And that is liberation. So this is the Dvaita philosophy, which Bhagavan Sri Madhvacharya, he came. He was not an ordinary soul, as my predecessor has explained. He was not an ordinary soul. Not only that, he explained all the three streams of the Vedantic literatures or scriptures thoroughly, threadbare explanation to prove his point philosophically. That is the philosophical aspect of it. But also he inspired through his life and his preaching and his teaching and extensively going everywhere, inspired everyone into practicing this religion to realize the joy of being the eternal servant of God. It is not a simple ordinary thing. It is not an intellectual thing. It is a spiritual inspiration. Without the advent of a great spiritual figure like Madhvacharya or Ramanujacharya or Shankaracharya or any of these acharyas, as you have been told that the Vedanta was not explained in only these three ways. Vedanta was explained in many other ways. To the latest one of Sri Chaitanya, it is called Achinta Veda Ved. Before that there was Veda Ved. Veda Ved is another school. And there are other schools. So there have been many different schools that have tried to explain, but these three are the most prominent and important one. So I have been given the kind of responsibility to talk about the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that period, because Madhvacharya came way before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what was the state of the Dvaita system of Vedanta that was in practice in India, of course? So I will take it a little bit before that, because to establish Dvaita philosophy, and each one of these acharyas, when they came, they established so-called supremacy of their way of practicing religion, because it is about practicing religion, so that the goal of life, and remember, goal of life is not the same for all the different kind of paths, different disciplines. They are talking about different goals to achieve, so that the goal of life could be achieved. And to establish that requires the superly powerful spiritual teachers. So when Madhvacharya came, he was one of those great ones. By the way, the path of his religious disciplines that he was teaching to everybody, it is called Bhagavad Dharma. It is about worshipping the divine being, the Bhagavan, as Vishnu. And Bhagavad Dharma was not started by him. It was not that Madhvacharya started Bhagavad Dharma or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came only for 500 years back and he taught Bhagavad Dharma. No. Bhagavad Dharma was started from the time when Bhagavad Puran was authored and when Bhagavad Gita was there. So it was several thousand years back that Bhagavad Dharma was being practiced from then onward, but it was in a very powerful and a very bold way that Madhvacharya came, and during his time he established in a way and openly he could declare that Advaita is not the ultimate and only path. That was the charisma of Madhvacharya. Because Shankaracharya was so charismatic and so powerful and so very superior intellectually to convince through all sorts of arguments that after Shankaracharya, all other different forms of religious practices and religious theories, they became a little bit sidelined or they are inferior kind of thoughts. But Madhvacharya, he came and he boldly stood opposing and contradicting Advaita philosophy. That was not a simple thing. He came much later, as I mentioned. He came much later. He was so powerful, a spiritual teacher and as a philosopher, that he could tell to everybody that no, that is not true. That is not true. And then he had his own way of explaining. Now, this Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, he was not the only person who has established the Dvaita philosophy in its essence that we now find it. Even now, if you go to many different places of Hindu pilgrimages, you will find Madhva mathas, and there are Madhva monks and nuns there, and they are following, and there is a large following of Madhvacharya's teachings. As I mentioned, it is a Dvaita philosophy, and that Dvaita is about the division not only between Atman and the Supreme Soul Vishnu, but there are many different divisions. To have that kind of conviction and belief and practice the religion accordingly, it is not simple and easy. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was initiated into the path of Madhva school. He was initiated by his guru Ishwar Puri. Ishwar Puri was disciple of Madhavendra Puri, and he was a very well-known and superior teacher in the Madhva school. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu belonged to that school. Though afterwards he had his own way, and his explanation and his teachings and the way he did not author many different books as we find in the case of others as leaders of the different schools of Vedanta, like Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, that they had themselves authored scholarly books to explain the Prasthanatraya and many other books they have authored. In case of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was not. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his only writing was Sikshastakam. That was the only writing. It was only after him that his followers, and the greatest among them, I am telling everything together because I don't have enough time, that his main followers, the Jiva Goswami, not the first Jiva, Rup Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, these two brothers, and their nephew, Jiva Goswami, these three were instrumental in creating the scriptural aspect of, or the philosophical aspect of, according to the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that in course of time became known as Achinta Vedabhed School of Vedanta. Achinta Vedabhed School of Vedanta. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he was not a Achinta Vedabhed in the beginning. He became a disciple of Madhva teacher, a Vaishnava teacher. And later on, he took monastic vows from Keshav Bharati. So these are his gurus, Guru Parampara. But during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we find in the south where this Madhvacharya was born, he was born in Karnataka. By the way, all the three major schools of Vedanta, the Advaita school, Vedanta founder Shankaracharya was born in Kerala. The Visishtadvaita school founder Ramanujacharya was born in Tamil Nadu. And Madhvacharya, the founder of Dvaita school, he was born in Karnataka. So all three great teachers of the Vedanta schools which we quickly recognize, and as I mentioned, there are other Vedanta schools as well, but all three of them, they came from south. And here, Madhvacharya, after very big way, creating this major uproar in the society, to preach and teach and make a very large follower of his way of understanding the Prasthanatraya and his way of worshipping God, so that they could have the ultimate liberation of the soul in the form that I just mentioned. That was further solidified with the help of two other great teachers. Madhvacharya was only one of them. Together, these three, they are called Munitrayas. So these Munitrayas, the second name was Jayatirtha. The Jayatirtha was born about 140 years before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he was instrumental in giving detailed explanation of whatever Madhvacharya has already written. Madhvacharya was already given in writing all these three sections of the scriptures he had explained. Jayatirtha gave detailed analytical explanation of all this. So much so that he was called Tikacharya. So he gave so much of Tika on Madhvacharya's writing that he was known as Tikacharya. But after his writing, the whole the literature became so scholarly developed that it was acceptable as coming to the standard of Shankaracharya's writings. Because until then, nobody could compare anything to Shankaracharya's writing. It was so very superbly scholarly. So after Jayatirtha, it was changed. And then came Vyasatirtha. Vyasatirtha was another very famous name, and Vyasatirtha was the guru of Vijayanagara emperor at that time, and that he was the Rajguru of Vijayanagara emperor, and he was the guru of two very important teachers of this Dvaita teachings. They were Purandar Das and Kanaka Das. Now Purandar Das and Kanak Das, their contribution to the spreading of Dvaita teachings was in the form of that they authored thousands and thousands of songs and poems, and they preached the Dvaita teachings of Madhvacharya in the simplest language of the people. So it spread everywhere, and they established eventually the Haridasa Sampradaya that spread everywhere, and ordinary people in very large number, they became the devotees of God, which was Krishna. So establishing the temple of Sri Krishna in Udupi and establishing 8 mathas there, and that is a great legacy that we find that was there when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came. Thank you.
Wonderful, very deep and provocative and critical presentation. Maharaj has, if I may say so, thrown a spanner in the works. He said, we are all eager to establish that all the schools are saying the same thing. Maharaj has told us it is not so easy. And it's an important thing to note. How so? Maharaj pointed out, notice one thing, that we have pictures of Shankaracharya, Ramanuja Acharya, Madhvacharya, the non-dualist master, the master of qualified monism, the master of the dualistic school, the commentators. But the strange thing is, they historically become one after the other. So if Shankaracharya is right, in that case, what was the need for Ramanujacharya to revise it and give a very different interpretation? If Shankara and Ramanuja said what has to be said, what was the need for Madhvacharya to come after that and give a very different interpretation again? So if historically one comes after the other and challenges the interpretations of the others, earlier ones, and so that is something we need to take note of. We must answer the question, what was the need for Vishishta Dvaita commentaries? What was the need for Dvaita commentaries? And just as a, if you are interested in exploring this further, revered Swami Tapasyanandaji Maharaj has written this classic Bhakti Schools of Vedanta. In that he has answered this question, or tried to answer this question in the introduction. What was the need after Shankara to promote the Bhakti Schools of Vedanta? Maharaj has, again, another important issue Maharaj has raised is that the way we are talking about it, non-differentiation, non-dualism, and everything is part of a whole, is qualified monism, and God and the human are different, Jiva and Ishvara are different, that is dualism. That is, it's not wrong, but it's a very bird's eye view of it. If you go down into the details, Maharaj pointed out the importance of commentary. All of them are called Acharya, Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, because they wrote exhaustive commentaries, especially commentaries on the Brahma Sutras. And this commentary, Maharaj pointed out, is not an easy thing, because there you have to have this one framework and you have to interpret all the Upanishads, all the 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, all the 555 odd sutras of the Brahma Sutras to fit that framework. So that is an exhaustive approach which one should not ignore. When one goes deep into this, one will encounter these huge, I would say, issues. Then Maharaj used a term which I think we have been avoiding, crucial term. He used the term Ekavakyata. So this is a term we should keep in mind when we are talking about the various interpretations and schools of Vedanta. What is this Ekavakyata? The idea was, when you are trying to find out the meanings of the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, these sentences should mean one thing. They have a meaning. And so it cannot be many meanings. The idea was, logically speaking, the sentence should mean one thing. What is the sentence trying to tell us? You might say, ask the guy who said those sentences. You can't. They're gone. They're no longer present before us. So all we have is the text. And how do you interpret the text and derive the one correct meaning out of it? Again, does it have to be one correct meaning? That again something Swami Tapasyanji has dealt with this issue in his introduction, masterful introduction to the Bhakti schools of Vedanta. Maharaj also pointed out that there is not only philosophy but practice. Bhakti and Jnana Vichara, these are different kinds of practices. The goal again, when we say moksha, liberation is the goal, that's true. But when you go into the details, Maharaj pointed out, liberation, is it one limitless consciousness, or is it living as a servant of the divinity in the abode of Vishnu? Which is it? What's it like? So these issues come up. I remember one of our teachers, Revered Swami Bhajananji Maharaj, he would tell us that you think Advaita Vedanta is logical, but when you come to the Madhva texts, they are what might be described as hyperlogical. And Maharaj described how the Madhva, the literature developed in the pre-Chaitanya age after Madhvacharya himself, Jayatirtha, and then Vyasatirtha, and their followers. Extraordinarily rich, profound, logical, using of logic to an extremely subtle level and mounting tremendous attacks on their opponents, which led to new books being composed as replies to these great masters. On a humorous note, Maharaj, I have to say this, but it will make sense only to Bengalis. It will not make any sense to others. But I have to say this. I was at one time in the teachers training college in Belur Math, Shikshan Mandir, and we were interviewing candidates who would be school teachers. And the professors would ask questions to the candidates. And one of the questions you ask in Bengali literature is, Maharaj pointed out, who were the disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? They are known as Shada Goswami, the 6 great Goswamis. Maharaj mentioned Rup, Sanatan, Jivan, there are others. So one professor asked the candidate, Balo, Shada Goswami naam bolo, tell us the names of the 6 Goswamis. And this poor fellow, he thought, as Maharaj said, Rup, Sanatan, Jiv, Jai Goswami. Now, it doesn't make any sense in non-Bengalis because Jai Goswami is a well-known contemporary poet who is alive today. Just the name. Our pranams to Revered Maharaj for this thought-provoking, the issues he has put before us for contemplation. Now, what happens in the phase after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So Revered Swami Satyamanji Maharaj will speak about Dvaita Vedanta post Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Revered Maharaj is the head and spiritual director, the minister in the Vedanta Society of of Seattle, but Western Washington basically, but it's in Seattle. Yes.